Hi, I'm Fiona, and I'm a recovering voice student. Jokes aside, I took one-to-one private singing lessons for 30 years, and sometimes as many as 2 or 3 a week. Not only this, I also taught singing for 20 of those 30 years, and am still teaching singing and public speaking today. So I would say I'm an excellent source for information when it comes to all things related to singing lessons and voice studios. I've been on both sides of the piano, taught and been taught in all sorts of settings. I'm also a champion for singers. I believe we do deserve to make a living in music. I believe art has value. I believe that music has the power to heal individuals and whole populations. When we sing, we can uplift and inspire, and we never know all the positive ripples that are caused by even just one song, sung at just the right moment and heard fully by one specific person in a room full of people. My point is that singing is sacred work, but like many sacred works, it doesn't always pay the bills. And that's not your fault. It doesn't mean you aren't talented. In fact, I believe you're probably great at what you do. And if you've put in your 10K hours, as explained by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers, to truly master your craft, then you're not just great, you're extraordinary. But so what if you're extraordinary, if you still can't pay the bills? I hear you. I've been there too. In fact, this channel's origin is directly linked to my own struggles and my desire to help you avoid them. Speaking of which, I always ask at the end of the video for you to support the channel by liking, subscribing, and engaging. But I know you may not have time to watch till the end. So in that case, let me assure you that your engagement means the absolute world to me. I appreciate every like, reply to every comment, and celebrate every new subscriber. So take a sec to like this video now. So what I've come to understand and what I want to share with you is that creatives have got to create multiple streams of diversified income. The simple truth is that we can't rely on other people to be gatekeepers to our livelihoods. And by gatekeepers, I mean auditions, casting directors, producers, labels, etc. One thing that you must understand is that your need for diversified income has nothing to do with your talent. It's simply the reality of our culture and our time. Even back in the 1700s, Mozart had a patron, as did the majority of his successful colleagues. And even so, Mozart suffered financially throughout his entire prolific career. What does diversified income give you? Peace of mind and the ability to create on your own terms. How can you diversify your income? The possibilities are as endless as your imagination and run from crowdfunding to brand deals to side hustles to side businesses to teaching. So today, we're going to zero in again on teaching and how specifically to structure a singing lesson. This video is part of a series of videos all about starting and growing your voice studio. Check the playlist called Teaching Voice for the rest of the videos in this series. A voice lesson typically follows the same outline every session. This creates a familiar and predictable pattern that people appreciate. In fact, Michael Gerber even talks about why following a predictable pattern is important in business in his book, The E-Myth. There's a link to the book in the description below, and I highly recommend it for anyone new to business or who has struggled with business. So the structure of a voice lesson typically follows this 4-part pattern. 1, the catch-up. 2, the warm-up. 3, working on songs. And 4, the wrap-up. 1. When your student first arrives, it's time to welcome them into your studio, which is often your home. Just like you'd welcome anyone coming for a visit. You say hello and lead them to your studio area, the place with the piano or keyboard. You should have a chair here, usually across from your position at the piano. The student will sit and you'll have a little conversation. Some teachers will also offer water or tea. This is a very nice and appreciated touch. It's amazing how a free bottle of water takes the edge off of paying anywhere from $50 to hundreds of dollars for a 1-hour session. I had one voice coach in San Francisco with a tea setup in her waiting area. It made me feel welcome and cozy. You want your student to feel welcomed to your space. This is also the time the student may want to visit your bathroom. Sometimes a student will have traveled an hour by car to meet with me. They deserve a moment to catch their breath and take care of the necessities. After everyone is settled, it's time for a brief catch-up. How was their week? How were their practice sessions and or rehearsals? If they're currently performing, did anything come up they want to talk about? Any questions? Now, if this is a first lesson, it'll be a little different, and this catch-up time will be more of a break the ice, get to know each other time. It can be very scary for a new student to sing for a voice teacher for the first time. They may believe they need to impress you. They're afraid they won't do their best. Your job here is to create a safe space for them, assuring them that you're on their side and looking forward to hearing them sing. When I was first starting, I usually had an intake form I used, where I would put their name, contact info, and take a few notes about their background and experience. I'd ask questions about what styles of music they like to sing, whether they'd had singing lessons before, what their goals were. Honestly, I loved the ritual of this intake form at first lessons because I was nervous too. I thought I had something to prove too. Breaking the ice in a ritualized way was helpful for me and for the student. Later on, I evolved my intake form into a homework sheet that was, I don't even remember what it's called. Maybe it's like a mimeograph at the time. It was a two sheets that were stuck together, and when you wrote on the top, it went through to the bottom. I would give them the top sheet that would have their homework, and I would keep the bottom sheet for my knowing what their homework was, as well as any notes I wanted to add. So that was a great way for me to keep track of what each student was working on, and I kept those homework sheets in a folder. Each student had their own folder. The next part of the lesson is the warm-up. And quite honestly, the warm-ups themselves are less important than the ritual of doing and repeating them over time. You can choose any warm-ups that work with your style and technical background. If you want tips on how to play warm-up exercises, especially if you don't play piano well, you can find a whole video about that here. But keep in mind that your warm-ups do not need to be complex and should not be difficult either for you to play or for the student to sing. You want your students to feel successful, and you want to feel successful too. The more confident you both are, the easier it'll be to find your way together. Now, if this is a first lesson, I'll often have the student sing some or all of a song first, either a cappella or with a track. Remember, I don't play piano well. This is to give me a sense of exactly where we're starting. If the student is self-conscious and nervous, I'll stop quite quickly, congratulate them on doing something scary, and move into the warm-ups. But I don't want to assume I know what's going on before I hear them sing. This will also give you a sense of their range and any obvious trouble spots to start with, like reaching for high notes or lack of support. You get to choose for yourself. You can touch base with a song too, or you can jump right into the warm-ups. There isn't a right way to get started, and definitely use your intuition. Sometimes students feel more confident with vocal exercises, but other times they're better with songs. Always err on the side of your student. What will inspire them and fill them with confidence? Warm-up exercises also follow a regular pattern, starting with simple 5-3-1 legato patterns in the middle of the student's range, and then extending the range with runs, octaves, staccati, and leaps. I'm thinking I'll do another video with all of my favorite warm-ups, but in the meantime, just use your own favorites, and remember that I have basic warm-ups in this video. The warm-up serves multiple purposes. First of all, it does exactly what it's called. It allows your student, and you incidentally, the opportunity to warm up. You warm up with each other, you warm up your bodies, you warm up the space, you warm up your minds, and of course, you warm up their voice. This will all happen organically. Think of the warm-up like an athlete doing their own ritual stretching and movements before a game. But the warm-up also serves the function of providing exercises to strengthen the student's voice and create more flexibility. So the warm-up is not just about warming up. It's also an opportunity to learn technique related to support, breathing, pitch control, but not just this. It's an opportunity to become more musical. Make sure your student understands that vocal exercises can be as musically expressive as songs. They're not just something to get through in order to sing what matters. They can be like songs in and of themselves. 3. After the student is effectively warmed up, it's time to sing songs. For me, this is usually halfway through the lesson. So if it's an hour session, then we take 5 to 10 minutes to catch up and get settled at the beginning, 15 to 20 minutes on warm-ups, 25 minutes for songs, and about 5 minutes for homework, payment, and saying goodbye. You'd probably be better off taking 10 minutes for the wrap-up if you want to end on time. I'm afraid I usually run over by 5 to 10 minutes because I'm so engaged in what we're doing together. In fact, here's a pro tip. It's a great idea to have a clock nearby, and ideally a wall clock that you and your student can glance at to keep you both on schedule. For many students, the songs are the fun part of the lesson, but not for everyone. Some people, myself included, can get all tied up in knots when singing songs because suddenly it becomes about being perfect instead of making music. But for others, this is reversed, and they feel truly free when immersing themselves in the lyrics and melody. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably a beginner teacher with beginning students. So for you, it's best to have a handful of songs that lie right in the middle of a student's range, that you know how to sing well, and that you are learning to play. In fact, if you're teaching classical music, the 24 Italian songs in Arias or the 26 Italian songs in Arias are a great place to start. There are links to these books in the description below if you want to check them out. If you're classically trained yourself, you probably worked with them in your own lessons. If you teach these Italian songs, you'll want 2 books, one in the medium high voice and one in the medium low voice. This will actually cover all your students, male and female. If you're a woman with a male student, don't get thrown off when they imitate you an octave above where they're supposed to be. They're just imitating your demonstration and trying to mimic the female range. If this happens, play the note and/or sing the octave below to get them back on track. Obviously, you don't have to start with classical music. You know your rep best. Jazz standards are often great, easy learning pieces because they aren't rangy, and you can easily find them in multiple keys. Beatles songs work well. Folk songs in general are great. My point is that you want to stick with songs at the beginning that will make both you and your student feel successful. These songs should be easy. Simple melodies, simple rhythms, familiar songs, familiar genres, and right in the middle of the range with very few to no real high or low notes. This said, do confer with your student. Don't force them to sing any style they actually dislike, and do encourage them to bring in the songs they love. But if they're bringing in 3+ octave pop songs, find a way to spend more time on the easier songs until they're ready to tackle the more challenging ones. 4. As part of your wrap-up, reflect back on what they've done well. Compliment your students, build them up, remind them of what they've accomplished. A voice is a precious mirror of the soul. As a voice teacher, you actually hold great power to inspire, but also to wound, even wound deeply. Be careful with your words and tone. Lean always towards generosity and kindness. Your job as teacher is just as sacred as your job as singer. Again, you can never know the positive ripples you send out into the world each time you help another person to love the sound of their own voice. After you've spent a moment congratulating your student on a job well done, a song well sung, remind them of what you'd like them to practice before the next session, and be sure you get paid. Some teachers will handle payment in advance, and this also works well, maybe even better than at the end where sometimes it's easy to forget. Although some students will want to pay by check or cash, you'll definitely want to have a Venmo account. Make it easy for your students and be sure to follow the payment trends. Maybe your students prefer PayPal. Maybe Square makes more sense, so you can take credit cards directly. You can offer package discounts if they pay for a group of lessons in advance. Just make it easy on yourself by making it easy to get paid. Finally, walk your student to the door just like you would with any guest and give a warm goodbye that feels authentic to you. I hope this video was useful to you, and I'd love to hear in the comments if it made sense and if you have any specific questions. Be sure to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. Next week is going to be a little different, as a couple people have encouraged me to share a little more about my personal journey. So hit the notification bell, because next week I'll be back with my first blog. And if you watched to the end of this video, I'm guessing you're interested in teaching. So definitely check out these videos as well as all of the videos on my Teaching Voice playlist. Now, as always, go out into the world and let your light shine. You deserve to be heard, and the world deserves to hear you.